The first time my brother told me I didn't deserve our father's land, I thought I had misheard him. His words were sharp, cutting through the late afternoon air like a rusty blade. The land stretched before us, golden under the fading sun. The same fields my father had walked with calloused hands and steady steps. For me, that soil was not just earth, it was memory, sacrifice, and love. For my brother, it was acreage and money a prize to claim. He stood tall, his chest puffed, with the smugness only arrogance can breed. "You don't belong here," he sneered. "You're just a woman. Dad built this for me." His voice carried the weight of entitlement, as though my gender alone disqualified me from being the daughter my father had trusted most. I wanted to scream, to throw his cruelty back at him, but I didn't. I looked at him, at the brother I had once protected, once loved, and saw a stranger blinded by greed. In my silence, the memories came rushing back, my father's hand steady on my shoulder, his voice telling me the land was more than property. It was a legacy. My brother had forgotten that I never had, so I swallowed the pain, letting it settle deep inside me like a coal waiting for flame. I didn't answer him then, but in my heart, I knew this wasn't over. When I close my eyes, I can still feel the warmth of my father's hand wrapping around mine as he guided me through the fields. I was no taller than the stalks of wheat then, stumbling to keep up, but he never hurried me. He spoke softly, telling me that the soil beneath our feet carried the weight of generations, that every furrow he plowed was a line in our family's story. I remember mornings when the dew clung to the grass like tiny jewels, and he'd lift me onto the wooden fence to watch the sun rise. "This land isn't just ours," he would say. "It's alive. Treat it with respect, and it will feed you, shelter you, and carry you through life." He never spoke of profit or power. He spoke of belonging, of roots that ran deeper than money ever could. I watched him work with reverence, his back bent under the sun, his palms calloused, yet his heart full of pride. He would pause to show me how to plant seeds gently, never tossing them carelessly, as though each one was a promise to the earth. At night, he would sit with me by the fire, reminding me that land is not property, it is life itself. And those who forget that truth lose their souls long before they lose their wealth. Those memories are stitched into me as tightly as the hem of my childhood dresses. They are why I stood taller in the fields than I ever did in the city. My father gave me more than acres. He gave me purpose. And now, when I see my brother's greedy eyes scanning those same fields, calculating what they might sell for, my heart twists. His gaze carries no reverence, no gratitude, only hunger. The clash between my father's sacred lessons and my brother's shallow ambition burns like a fire I cannot ignore. It happened on a Sunday evening, the kind of gathering where family fills the old house with chatter, the air rich with spices and memory. Laughter floated from the kitchen, children darted through the halls, and for a fleeting moment, I thought perhaps the weight between my brother and me would stay hidden. But greed rarely sleeps. He waited until the plates were cleared, until the attention of the room hung lightly, ready for a story. Rising from his chair with a theatrical confidence, he raised his glass. "To father's land," he declared, his voice booming, "which, as everyone knows, rightfully belongs to me." A hush fell. My fork froze midway. Some cousins glanced toward me, their eyes quick with pity, while others nodded, too eager to align themselves with his swagger. He wasn't satisfied with stealing behind closed doors. He wanted to strip me of dignity in front of everyone. He smirked, savoring the silence he had forced upon the room. "My sister may think she has a claim, but let's be honest. Father built that land for his son. A woman cannot manage soil, crops, or legacy. She should step aside and let a man do what must be done." His words dripped with venom, dressed up as tradition. Heat rushed to my face, though not from shame, from fury. My father's voice thundered in my memory, his lessons of respect and stewardship clashing with the poison my brother spilled. But I did not give him the satisfaction of an outburst. I pressed my lips together, the weight of silence far heavier than words could ever be. Around the table, whispers began. An aunt muttered about old customs. Another cousin shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to challenge him. The betrayal stung deeper because their silence was complicity. I was being erased, not just by his arrogance, but by the cowardice of those two afraid to speak. I rose from my seat slowly, my chair scraping against the floor, sharp as a blade. I met his eyes, just long enough for him to see the storm gathering inside me. But I didn't speak. I turned and walked out of the room, my footsteps steady, my fists clenched so tightly my nails bit into my palms. He thought he had humiliated me, that his performance sealed the matter. What he did not see was that in trying to bury me, he had planted something far more dangerous. Determination was already taking root, stronger than his pride could ever be. The morning after that humiliating dinner, I walked to the lawyer's office with a heaviness in my chest. The small building smelled of old paper and polished wood, a place where truth was meant to live safely in ink. I carried with me the faint hope that the law, at least, would honor my father's wishes, if family would not. But as I sat across from Mr. Harris, our longtime family attorney, I watched his expression tighten. He shuffled papers with deliberate care, avoiding my eyes. At last, he cleared his throat. "Your brother has already been here," he said, voice low. "He attempted to file a transfer of the deed into his name." The words hit harder than his insults ever had. My brother's cruelty at the table had been public humiliation. This was calculated theft. He had claimed, in writing, that I had agreed to surrender my rights, that I, the daughter who had walked every acre with our father, had consented to erase myself. My hands trembled as I clutched the edge of the desk. "That is a lie," I whispered, though the rage rising inside me made the words shake. I thought of my father's steady voice, his trust in me, and felt a betrayal so sharp it stole my breath. Mr. Harris leaned forward, his brow furrowed with concern. "I know it's false, and, fortunately, the transfer was blocked for lack of proper signatures. But your brother, he won't stop here. He's determined." For a moment, despair threatened to drown me. If he was willing to twist the law, what chance did I have? Then Mr. Harris opened a drawer, pulling out a sealed envelope, its edges yellowed with time. He placed it gently on the desk. "Your father left this with his will," he explained. "It's never been opened. He said it was meant for you, should matters ever come into dispute." I stared at the envelope, my heart pounding. My father had anticipated this storm. Even from the grave, he had left me a lantern to cut through the dark. Mr. Harris slid the envelope across the desk as though it carried the weight of gold. My fingers trembled when they touched the brittle paper. Its seal still intact, the handwriting on the front unmistakably my father's. For a long moment, I couldn't bring myself to break it. His voice, his presence, his very soul seemed to linger within that fold. At last, with careful hands, the lawyer opened it and began to read. His voice softened, but every word carried the power of a hammer striking stone. My father's message was simple, yet unshakable. The land was to remain in my name. He wrote of my childhood walks with him across the fields, how I had listened with reverence when others had only shrugged. He reminded me that I had valued the land not for profit, but for its life, its history, its promise to future generations. Tears blurred my vision as I listened. My father had truly seen me not as just a woman, but as the keeper of his legacy. In that moment, it felt as if his hand once again rested on my shoulder, steady and sure. I pressed the letter to my chest, the ink burning into my heart like a vow renewed. My brother's lies might shake others, but they could never undo the truth my father had left in his own words. I wiped my tears and whispered, "Steady at last. Now I have both the truth and the deed." I left the lawyer's office with my father's letter pressed firmly against my chest, as if his spirit walked beside me. For the first time since my brother's cruel declaration, I felt a fire inside me, not of grief, but of resolve. Confrontation at the dinner table would have been nothing but wasted words. No, if my brother wanted a battle, he would get one, but not on his stage. This time, the ground would be mine. The first step was to secure everything. I sat with Mr. Harris for hours, ensuring the paperwork was ironclad. The deed in my name, the sealed letter, and his sworn testimony created a shield my brother couldn't pierce. Still, I knew truth alone doesn't always win. People need to see arrogance crumble before their eyes. Quietly, I began visiting relatives who had witnessed my brother's sneering words. Over cups of tea and hushed conversations, I asked them what they had heard that night. Some hesitated, afraid of taking sides, but others spoke plainly. "He was cruel," one cousin admitted, shame flickering in her gaze. We all saw it. I gathered their words carefully, not pressing too hard, but enough to weave a net of witnesses who could not deny the truth when the time came. At home, I organized every document into neat folders, each one a weapon sharper than any blade. In the evenings, I walked the fields my father loved, feeling the soil beneath my feet, drawing strength from its quiet endurance. My brother underestimated me. He thought silence meant weakness. that my calm was surrender. He had no idea it was strategy. Each step of preparation stitched courage deeper into me. I could almost hear my father's steady voice reminding me that patience was as vital in life as it was in farming. Seeds do not sprout overnight. Justice, too, must be nurtured until the harvest is undeniable. By the time the pieces were in place, my fear had burned away, leaving only steel. I imagined my brother's face when he realized the stage he thought was his had been transformed into a courtroom of family and truth. That night, as I sealed the last envelope of evidence, a smile tugged at the corner of my lips. If my brother wanted a war, I whispered into the quiet, he would get one. But on my terms. The day of the family meeting arrived, with the tension so thick it seemed to hang in the air like a storm. My brother had called it himself, parading it as an opportunity to set things straight. He strode into our father's old house as though he already wore a crown, his steps loud, his smile smug. He believed the audience of aunts, uncles, and cousins would rally behind his charm and bravado, that I would crumble under the weight of tradition and silence. I sat quietly at the far end of the long wooden table, the same one where we had once shared meals under father's watchful eye. My folders rested before me, neat and unassuming. My brother mistook my calm for surrender. When everyone had gathered, he rose, his voice booming like a stage actor. "We all know why we're here," he began. "Father's land belongs to me. My sister, bless her heart, cannot handle its burdens. She's clinging to something she doesn't understand." His words rolled off his tongue with rehearsed ease, as though he believed repetition could forge truth. Murmurs filled the room, some nodding along, others shifting uneasily. Then I stood, slowly, deliberately. I placed the original deed on the table. Its worn edges caught the light, undeniable in their authenticity. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. "This," I said evenly, "is in my name." My brother's smirk faltered, but he quickly recovered. "Forged," he spat, "or a mistake. Everyone knows father wanted me, his son, to inherit." Without a word, I laid down the second item, the sealed letter, its familiar handwriting wrapping the room in memory. Mr. Harris, who had joined us at my request, cleared his throat and read aloud. Each word from my father struck like a hammer. His will that the land remain mine, his recognition of my devotion, his warning against greed. Gasps rippled through the room. An aunt dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. A cousin whispered, "He wrote it himself. It's his hand." Finally, I presented Mr. Harris's testimony. Calm and clear, he explained the attempted transfer, my brother's deceit, and the evidence that secured the truth. With every word, the walls of my brother's arrogance crumbled. I looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. "This land is not about pride nor profit. It is about legacy, and I will honor it." My brother's face turned crimson, his fists clenched. "This isn't over," he roared, shoving his chair back so violently it scraped against the floor. He stormed out, the door slamming like a gunshot behind him. The family sat stunned, whispers rising in his wake. I gathered the papers calmly, my heart steady. The storm had only begun, but for the first time, I felt the power of truth at my side. In the weeks that followed the meeting, the family spoke in hushed tones about what had happened. Some pitied my brother, others scolded his arrogance, but none could deny the truth written in father's hand. Stripped of his imagined victory, he drifted into shadows of his own making. He squandered his days in smoke-filled rooms, gambling away what little he had. Nights found him at taverns, drowning his pride in cheap liquor, his laughter hollow, his temper quick. Once he had strutted with the confidence of inheritance, now he stumbled with the bitterness of loss. His pride, so swollen before, began to rot into self-pity. Meanwhile, the land thrived. I rose each morning to walk the fields, my father's lessons guiding me like prayers. Crops grew tall, the soil generous under my care. With every harvest, I felt his presence, steady and approving, as though the earth itself recognized who truly honored it. The contrast was stark. Where my brother's greed consumed him, the land gave me peace. Neighbors who once doubted me now came seeking advice, their respect born not of tradition but of results. I did not gloat, though a quiet satisfaction stirred in my chest. My father had been right. Legacy belongs to those who cherish it, not those who covet it. But pride wounded is dangerous. One evening, as the sky bled into twilight, I heard the heavy knock on my door. I opened it to find my brother, his eyes bloodshot, his frame thinner, his voice shaking with anger and desperation. "You owe me," he snarled. "Give me money. That land is useless without me." And I knew then, the storm was not yet over. He burst through my door like a storm unchained, his anger spilling into the room before his body had even crossed the threshold. His voice thundered with accusation, spitting words meant to wound. "You betrayed me. You stole what should have been mine." His fists slammed against the wooden table, rattling the lamp, his rage filling every corner of my home. I did not rise from my chair. I met his fury with a calm forged from years of quiet endurance. "No," I said, my voice steady though my heart pounded. "I betrayed no one. It was you who betrayed Father, his memory, his teachings, his trust. You wanted land, but not the weight of its meaning. That is not inheritance. That is theft." His face twisted, red with fury, but beneath it I saw something else: fear. The mask of arrogance was crumbling, revealing a man who had gambled away his pride and had nothing left but blame. He demanded money, insisting the land was worthless without him, that I owed him for blood shared. I stood then, the letters still safe in my possession, my father's voice echoing inside me. "I owe you nothing," I said firmly. "You chose your path. You sold your honor for drink and cards. And you would sell Father's land, too, if it were in your grasp. I will not fund your ruin. You must face the cost of your choices." For a moment, silence wrapped around us, broken only by his ragged breathing. His eyes darted around the room, as if searching for a crack in my resolve. But there was none left. I was no longer the sister who bit her tongue at insults. I was the daughter who carried our father's legacy, unshaken. His shoulders slumped, his fists loosening, the fight drained from him as quickly as it had flared. Without another word, he turned and stumbled to the door. His shadow stretched across the floor, long and broken, before vanishing into the night. I stood in the doorway, watching him fade into darkness. There was no triumph in my heart, only sorrow. Sorrow for the boy he once was, for the man he could have been, and for the brother I had lost to greed. The morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that holds weight, as if the earth itself is listening. I walked slowly through the fields, the soil soft beneath my feet, the golden stalks swaying gently in the breeze. Every breath of wind carried with it a memory: my father's laughter, his steady hands guiding mine as a child, teaching me where to sow, where to water, and where to simply let the land breathe. The world had shifted. My brother, once so loud, so full of entitlement, had vanished into the shadows of his own choices. His name, once spoken with pride in family gatherings, was now a cautionary whisper. Greed had eaten him alive, leaving only bitterness where ambition once lived. I did not rejoice in his downfall. There was no victory in watching a brother crumble, but there was truth, and the truth had rooted itself here, in this land, in me. I knelt down, brushing my fingers across the soil. It felt alive, warm, and unyielding, like the spirit of my father resting here still. He had trusted me, not because I was the eldest or the loudest, but because I understood what this land meant. To him, it was not wealth, it was legacy. It was the story of who we were and what we valued. For a long time, I had doubted myself, silenced by shame when my brother declared I had no right. But now, standing here, I knew better. Rights were not shouted into existence. They were lived, earned, proven, and I had proven it not to him, not even to the relatives who had once whispered doubts, but to myself. The crops shimmered under the sun, rows of green stretching far and wide, a living testament to endurance. Workers moved along the edges of the field, tending with care, and when they saw me, they nodded with quiet respect. Their loyalty was not to the land alone, but to the one who carried its spirit forward. At the edge of the field, I paused. From here, I could see everything: every tree, every ridge, every path my father once walked. I closed my eyes, and in that stillness, I heard him again. His voice, calm and steady: "This land is not just yours to hold. It is yours to protect, to cherish, to keep alive for those who come after you." Tears threatened, but this time they were not born of pain. They were born of peace. My brother had lost his way, chasing wealth that slipped through his fingers like water. But I had kept my path, guided not by greed but by memory, by loyalty, by love. And though he had left me with scars, I stood stronger for them. The sun began to dip, painting the horizon with shades of fire and gold. I stood tall, the land stretching endlessly before me, a kingdom not of stone walls or thrones, but of roots, soil, and legacy. I whispered into the wind, a vow carried into the coming night: "This land will always be mine, because I never forgot who I am." The words settled into the air, into the earth, into my very soul. This was not just the end of a battle, it was the beginning of something eternal. The land remained on with it, so did I.